The Education Lounge podcast.
I don't know about you, but I think publishing is a pretty hellish industry.
Yeah, from our experience so far.
Yeah, it's. I think it's difficult no matter where in the chain you are. I think it's difficult from the publisher side, distributor side, bookseller side, writer side. I think there's no...
Yeah. Well, you said you used to work in, where was it? The charity shop or something?
Bernardo's, wasn't it?
Which book was it?
No, it was Oxfam.
Oxfam
Books.
And you said that there was... What's the margin on a book for a seller?
Well, for Oxfam, it's a bit different because...
Yeah.
Like, obviously, you've got the massive advantage that... Because you're accepting donations, they don't need to spend on bringing the stock in. And then they have, like, things like business rate discounts or, I don't know, exemptions.
Probably exempt. I would assume anyway.
Yeah, it's a charity.
So they have distinct advantages over a traditional bookseller like Waterstones.
Say for example for Waterstones or foils or something like that, what would?
Well, the more
I know it's low.
For Waterstones or like a big bookseller, it wouldn't be so bad because they order in such quantities that they're able to, get better margins. But then for a small bookseller, it's very low. You're talking like 10-20%.
Yeah.
And that's with all of that stock that you're bringing in.
I would have thought it was slightly higher than that.
No,
you've seen from when we've brought stuff in.
Yeah, when I order in books, unless you have, like for instance, I've talked to publishers before and I've said like, so what does it take to sort of bring our margins up when it comes to the book and that, and they say you need to order like about 2,000 books. And that's a lot of books. Like,
yeah, where would we put them?
Yeah, exactly.
I presume that's to do with the print runs because the print runs are cheaper.
Yeah.
With the
maybe
higher
that
the number.
and delivery.
And delivery, that's always a thing that I'm kind of going on about. I was like, I need books to, like, if I make this order, then in order to make an actual margin on the order, then you need enough books to put in the shop and take off the delivery fees and that kind of thing and reduce them. Because if you were to order in a book or from a Gardner's or Bertram's or something like that, then you're cutting into your margin instantly, and you'll make a loss on the book if you order one book or two books or three books.
Yeah, especially
because of the delivery costs.
Yeah.
Especially if the book is like £3.
So it's difficult.
You're making about 20p on it, if minimum.
But in terms of margin, like we've bought from publishers direct, because when I'm up in Yorkshire, I used to pass a major publisher, and I used to go in and have a chat with the head of sales there, and we used to pass that discount on. But the discount was no better than if we bought from Bertram's or from...
Oh yeah, no, it wouldn't be unless you ordered a lot. Like that's why I said when you chat to the actual publisher, they've said like you need to order like 2,000 books or something like that. I'm like, I'll never shift that many books.
So
it will take several years to do that.
So what's the benefit of using a publisher is that they have direct access to a lot of consumers.
Things. Yes. So
the marketing side of it is kind of almost
done
for you.
Distributing,
and distributing
they
as well.
They have the connections that they can get the books into. Like,
what surprises me is how much of a closed shop it is, because you've only got two major distributors that I'm aware of anyway, unless obviously you go directly to the publisher
or you go online.
Online's a different thing.
Well, that's where most of these books are bought.
Yeah.
Well, that's been a slow transition, but I mean, I do think if you've got, I don't know, if you go into a bookstore, I feel like I'm more likely to buy a book going into a bookstore than I am finding it online. But simply because I'm there, so I invested the time to go into the shop. So
that's true.
So you're more likely to, and also if you do see it, you're more likely to buy elsewhere as well. So you see a book in store and you're like, okay, well, that looked interesting, I might buy it. So
there's something to be said for it being tactile and you being able to flick through the pages. And I must admit, I recently I've just switched to Audible and I'm listening a lot more, but I resisted that for a long time because I like the hard copy.
Audible is even worse for the publisher and the author, because the return policy on the Audible, for Audible you buy credits, whatever. Now you'd think that the writer would get a royalty for selling the book even if it's via credit, but that's not true. They don't get anything, and a lot of people are obviously buying books using credits, not buying the book directly. And then there's a lot more cost that goes into producing an audiobook.
You've got to read it all out.
So if you were writing a book, which obviously we've done here, and you've just done yourself as well, what would be the pros and cons for doing it yourself or using one of these big publishers?
I'll tell you, like, the writer, for me, I feel like the true writer might not really care as much about the financial rewards of writing. It's like a sort of inbuilt desire to write. And as a writer, your main goal, I think, is to reach as many people as possible. Now, the trouble is with self-publishing, you're pretty much leaving it all to you to every single...
To market.
Yeah, to market,
promote, basically.
Potentially advertise your book, which, again, you may have to do. So you have to make calculated bets on advertising, and then you need to... You might need to do things like something that a lot of people do is they'll have their own website, and they'll obviously sell a lot of free material on the website. Yeah,
the more you give away for free, the more and then you'd get afterwards. You'd have to probably do like blogs and things to SEO and all of that sort of stuff.
There's so much stuff that goes into that, and to be honest, I'm just happy to have written something, because that in of itself is difficult, and I feel like if a few people can get a benefit from it, then
it's actually a lot harder to write than people realise. Like I've started my book for 5 times now.
This legendary book
that's never going to come out. I've started it 5 times, and I get to a certain point, and I just can't go any further. And even though I've got like a skeleton and a structure in place, and I know what I want to say in each chapter, I get to a certain point, and I just never seem to get beyond that point.
I used to get up at like 5 a.m. to write my books.
Yeah.
Like as in...
For me, it's not about the time. Like, I would set aside the time and it would be fine. It's about translating it from my head onto paper. You
can only get good at that by doing it a lot.
Yeah.
I think the only way to learn how to write is to actually write. Like, you can't. There's no simple ways.
I agree.
There's also good things you can do to motivate yourself. So something that I did was, there's something called National Novel Writing Month.
Yes.
So NaNoWriMo, and you just write a novel in a month, and I did mine in a month. So you need to have a schedule.
Apart from the schedule, did you have your book planned out before the month started?
In my head, yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't have a very. I have a.
You're quite fluid.
I have a quite a fluid idea of where it's going, but then I've got a structure.
Yeah.
in my head, like a basic structure.
Yeah.
You need a structure in order to write something.
That's it. You can't do it without, for sure. Well, you can,
but I'd say like the writing itself is always, the writing process is always organic. So, but things logically follow. So,
I've had a lot of writers say this. You know, I know what my characters are. I know exactly. I know the ins and outs of my characters, and I'll start writing and see where the character takes me.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it when you work with kids, you tell them plan.
They hate the plan. They really don't like it.
But then the point is that they're all planned differently.
Yes.
So they've got to find a way that suits them. And some of them will have really in-depth plans. Some of them will have very, very loose plans, but then somehow it will work. And I think also, like, children, it's good practice for them to write a story, because it's quite difficult for a child to logically sequence things. So work out what should follow from, like, sometimes you just have like random events happening. A lot of the time when you read a say year 4 or year 5 piece of writing or something, you can see there's a very, 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 very loose structure, but it's too loose, as in it doesn't logically flow. But then as they get older and they practice more, then their stories will flow more and more. So they need to write a lot of stories. It's just a constant thing they need to do.
But how much of that is, do you think, how they're taught? Like almost every single piece of story writing that I've seen always starts with, along the lines of on a bright sunny day. You know, they're taught this prescriptive way of, and you have, I don't know about you, but I have to break that down first and say, no, we're not going to write like that. Or if they're younger, it's once upon a time.
There's like there's two sort of, I think you need to know the rules to break them. And that's like the thing is that is a set formula for a story. And I think that's a good thing for them to have at the start, because they need some scaffolding, especially when they're quite young. But then when they transition to becoming, or like try to write an actual novel or something like that, then I think that's when they need to start breaking the rules, because unless you break the rules, you won't progress.
The problem is they're not taught, from my experience, they're very often not taught beyond that.
Yeah, well, I think the rest of it is actually.
They literally stop reading when they leave primary school.
That's the big part of it is there's not enough reading that goes on, so they don't know how to break the rules, even if they could. So they're used to because obviously the simpler the story, the more it will follow that kind of structure. But if they read something more complicated, then it will usually break the rules of form and structure. And
maybe we should publish some of the stories that the little ones have written. I've got several that are actually really good.
Some of them are insanely good, like
especially 5-6-year-olds that have written stories that 11-12-year-olds will struggle with. I think we should publish.
Yeah, and the thing is that you can lose that. I think if you, like, some of them have obviously a lot of talent when they're younger, but then it doesn't persist throughout their lives.
It's not nurtured.
So they don't reach the point of being a writer.
But in terms of publishing,
so what made you not look for a publisher? What made you go with self-publishing?
Speed.
So it's faster. Okay.
Are you talking about his personal stuff? Are you
talking about? Well, yeah. I mean, we can talk about here as well.
We'll talk about here.
But John's just finished writing a book.
Yeah. So
what's the book about?
Investment.
Oh yeah.
So the amateur investor's path to wealth.
We'll leave a link.
Yeah. Feel free. It's only 99p at the moment. So
yeah.
All those hours invested for 99p.
But
it's not about the money for it.
No.
So like I think, and I think the thing is that the self-publisher needs to take a different route to reach success than the one who goes through the sort of mainstream route, which is actually probably harder. So you've heard like J.K. Rowling got turned down
7 or 8 times.
And I think it was more than that. Like, it was like tons. But it's not uncommon for people to get turned down hundreds of times.
But it's true of everything, isn't it? You look at Walt Disney, how many times he was turned down.
And Colonel Sanders as well.
Yeah.
That was...
For KFC.
How many times was that?
Yeah.
A lot.
But you need to take rejection and then sort of move on from that and persist if you're going down that route. But to be honest, the vast majority of people won't make it. You need to... The thing is as well is that a traditional publisher, they've got an acquisitions department. So they have someone whose job it is to look for works of literature or whatever. So they might do some scouting.
Yeah, it usually happens when you register for your ISBNs. They can pick it up from there and they end up getting in contact with you.
But the problem is first of all, like, there's so many works written. Like, there's
what was the
so
number
many books
I wrote
published.
down? 200 something, wasn't it? It's on there. 200.
Is it 202
202
million in 2020?
Yeah. That's how many books were published. And I think we're only talking UK here. I'm not sure.
Well, yeah, so that shows you what you're competing against.
Yeah.
And then obviously they're competitive on price. They're competitive in so many different ways. There's different ways to compete.
Yeah. Well, and in terms of the name that goes on the book as well.
Yeah.
Because we had this, didn't we, with a big when we went to publish and make our very first book.
The
non-verbal books for here.
Yeah, so we had one of the biggest worldwide education publishers. I think I got in touch with them to say...
I thought they...
Or maybe they got... I can't remember.
I think they got in touch with us, didn't they?
I don't remember.
I think, like I said, they probably found the ISBNs and then...
I genuinely don't remember.
It was a while ago now, but...
But, you know, I had long conversations with the head of publishing, and in the end we decided not to go with them.
But the reason was they wanted to basically take our logos and our name.
They wanted to white label it, which is fine, but I think the other issue was...
That was the main reason, for me anyway.
No, it was more than that. I think there was a clause in there that said we couldn't then publish anything similar. I can't remember, I'll be honest.
You're right, yeah, I remember that.
And for me, that was more of an issue, because because we're constantly writing material, we may not publish it in terms of books, but John and I particularly are constantly writing.
Well, currently we've got 10 books that we've done. I'm in the middle of designing another 3.
And there are probably another 3
been written by, like, one's been written by you, my one's done. Who else? There's a science book. There's another verbal reasoning book.
Yeah.
The closed book.
Yeah. So we have another 3 more in the works.
The vocab book, 3.
Science book.
Science vocab
science.
and verbal for 11 plus.
And I've got at least 4 in my head that are going to be the next that I'm sort of putting together.
And these are all...
so we couldn't have done a lot of this, really, if we'd said yes to them.
Yeah.
True. Well, we could have done other things, I suppose.
Yeah, we could.
There's always other things to do, but...
Yeah, but I think that was our main reason, really, for saying no. And you know, it was... The royalties we were being offered were single digit figures.
The thing is, though,
but a small amount of a big pie and all of that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's the thing with royalties, is even though they might seem under generous, and obviously you can make a lot more margin if you self-publish. Like,
yeah,
I pretty much did every single part of my books. I did the writing, I did all the formatting for the ebook, I did all the cover design. It didn't take.
It looks quite good actually.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
It literally took me 2 minutes.
What did you use for your cover design?
Well, Amazon has like this cover design thing. So, like,
Does it? I haven't seen this.
Yeah.
You have to show me
it's
that.
it's got a thing like when you actually go through the process and you can like upload covers and that kind of thing.
So what made you go with ebook rather than traditional? Because I know that you probably, like us, prefer physical books. I went through a phase of preferring having everything on one, like iPad or something, but now I literally just buy physical. So what made you go with ebooks?
Speed, so the ability to reach people. Overheads.
Overheads,
Yeah,
I'd
that's
imagine,
the big-
is a major.
and that's the really big thing. I mean, obviously you can self-publish through like printed books through Ingram, Spark, and Amazon as well. Do their printing service.
Yeah.
But print is a lot more complicated in terms of like you've seen. I mean, you know the stuff that you do for the designing and putting a book together. Like it takes a lot of time.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah. It does.
I don't really want to spend all that time doing that.
I guess you don't have to design each page like you do in printing.
Yeah. The hard thing with Kindle, I think, if you've got like images, because obviously like I have images in my book and that kind of thing, and that can be quite like formatting them for the book.
The issue is with Kindle, it's the size of the device could be a phone, or it could be like a 13-inch iPad, or it could be a laptop. So where your page turns would be vary depending on where you've downloaded it to. Whereas physical books, the page turn is like it's here. So if there's a long word at the end, you can put it on the next page to not have a hyphen. But on Kindle, if you look, there's hyphens all the time because the page turn is in a different place every time.
That makes perfect sense because I wasn't very good with it this year in terms of contacting them, but I've been part of the business. I'm one of the judges at the business book awards every year, and this is what we have to do. We're given. We spend a day shortlisting books that have published for the first time. Yeah. Now the author, they don't need to be first-time authors, but they need to be business books, and we shortlist them, and then there's criteria that we have to use to judge.
That's another step.
I remember seeing one of these, and so in the middle where you've got your spine, I think I can't remember it, like back in doing graphic design at uni. I think it's called is it called a river or a stream, something like that, down the middle. So there needs to be space. There also needs to be space when you hold a book for your thumbs on there and there.
Yes,
on the
and
edge.
often they don't.
And there was one book where the text literally went all the way into the spine. They hadn't left a bleed or anything.
It's something like
instantly can't.
I think it's like
instantly can't read it.
I think it's like 1 centimeter or something.
It might be 2.
But it's even it's
or
even
1.5.
something like that. Yeah,
it's even just the font. So things like, and this is my take on it. Things like using a cursive font for a business book. In my head,
it's just a headache.
Well, it doesn't work because you just can't take it seriously enough. So there's a lot that goes in.
Well, yeah, like you've got this target audience and all that stuff, like all the stuff that we teach the kids about, like who you're addressing matters.
Well, if you go back to this ebook and traditional thing, you don't have that problem with ebooks because they know this stuff. Yes. So they give you a choice of like, was it Georgia Times and some sans serif font? They give you a choice of like
there's usually some sort of sans serif.
You can actually change, like, you can change.
You can't change it to anything. You have a choice of 3.
Yes.
I think it's 2 serif.
On e-publishing,
I think you can change.
You're talking about
on the Kindle.
I think you can change it on the reader's end too, like so the reader can pick.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
So the reader can choose. And obviously by doing that, again, it changes where the page turns and stuff are. But in traditional books, you don't have that. In traditional books, you can choose whatever you like.
Yes.
And not everyone knows what to choose.
Exactly. And sometimes, particularly when you're self-publishing, they can be a bit of a disaster.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that I've noticed when people have done their ebooks and stuff like that. Like, if you look through the ebook, there's loads of issues with it. Like, and I had to like go through it quite thoroughly and check where there might be issues and try and anticipate.
But I think
but even then, like, it's not. I don't think it's with something that's so fluid. I think it's impossible to make it like perfect, no matter.
But I think that you've got an unfair advantage because we, between us, have proofed so many books.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And we're constantly proofing our packs, etc. You know, that it almost becomes second nature, that you begin to spot things very quickly.
Yeah. No, but even then, with such a fluid structure, it becomes more difficult. I think it becomes more difficult in that way.
This is the thing, is it goes back to like, where either you get a design brief or you give a child like a title. If you say, write about this with this in this location, or if you give them like a title like The Key, which one's easier? When you get narrowed down, and you have more things to like hit, it's actually easier. So with the whole Kindle thing, you have a specific
that's true.
thing to hit, and that's easier than being like, here's a blank piece of paper, put whatever you want on it.
Yeah. You've got to make all of those choices yourself, and you
might not be aware of what
very,
the right
very
choice
difficult to
choose. So if you've sort of prerequisited a lot of that stuff, it then becomes easier to write in a month.
Yeah. Well, you know what Amazon are like. They're going to want you to have the easiest transition to get stuff onto their site to make them money. So why wouldn't they do it that way?
Yeah.
And well, the whole business, I think the business book thing is interesting because that's another big part of self-publishing that I'm not really going to go for or anything like that. But if you enter your book in a competition of some kind, then if it wins that competition, it gives.
It's like anything, isn't it? You've won the award.
It
goes
was a bit
long
more.
Way.
First of all, awareness to the book, and it also helps sell it because it's got some social proof.
Yeah, you bring awareness to the book, then you bring awareness to the author. The author becomes a key person of influence, and then once you're famous enough, whatever you release after that, people will look into. Same with music.
It's
same
just
with film,
having,
like all of it.
like all of it. It's just people trusting you in that industry, isn't it?
Which takes the ones that we really hear about are the equivalent of like unicorn companies. They just they just pop up.
Yeah.
Whereas other ones have to work for. Yeah, they think about like Mark Manson. Like whatever he writes now, people will pick up. Like he helped write Will Smith's book.
Did he?
Yeah, it's by both of them.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But he did blogs for years before his first book.
He did.
I guess we don't really see that once it's on people's radars and you have that social proof.
Yeah, like.
But whatever he writes now, like people will pick up and.
Yeah, it's like
read.
Amazingly difficult to get that. Well, to get a book to that level.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's 1 in 200.
It's so easy to write a book, but to actually make a success of it is.
It goes back to marketing, isn't it?
Yeah, I was just going to say.
That's usually our issue, isn't it, with getting these sorts of things out.
Marketing's very tough.
And just like advertising widely.
Is it Drucker? Was it Drucker that said there is only innovation and marketing?
I don't know, probably. I'm guessing.
I think it was Drucker. I might be wrong.
But I mean, it probably is the case because if you think like many of the great, I mean, think about like Van Gogh. Like
Van Gogh.
Yeah, it's like he died
penniless, didn't he?
Penniless, yeah. So he was, and if you think about like most of the great artists, they had patrons. That kind of thing.
Well, that's the only way they could do it.
The patronage system sort of disappeared, or is more or less disappeared, and now it's pretty much impossible to just make.
I watched. I can't. My memory's so bad. I was watching something or other, and they had a pop group who became really famous in the 80s. It must have been. Wasn't like as big as the Who or anything like that, but it's a fairly well-known name. Whose name I can't remember, which is ironic.
Who was in it?
I can't remember.
From here or from?
No, England.
Spandau Ballet?
No, Spandau. No, it wasn't Spandau Ballet. No, they weren't that famous, but they were like. So if I said to you, I don't know.
There's loads of bands with songs that they have like one song,
and then that's it. Yeah, but then they can live off of that.
Yeah.
You make something.
But a lot of them were saying, well, we could innovate because we didn't have to worry about money because they were basically on the dole.
Yeah, you see this with, so it's like life. When you're young, you have all of this potential. You can do whatever. You have all these different choices. You then narrow down, focus on specific things, and then when you get older, you retake up your old interests again.
Horseshoe effect.
Well, hourglass. It's similar to that. If you think of like musicians and things, when they first start out, they can be as creative as they want because there's no like label or anything holding them back. They then get signed to something, or people like a specific thing that they're doing, and they have to do that for a while. But then when they get more famous, they go back into their creative side and they try new things, and people say, "Oh, I like the old stuff," and it's played out everywhere. It's the same thing in every.
But I think even that's changing. Like if you look at my head's name's gone. George Michael and his fight with Sony. The interview he did, he said there was, I just lost two people I loved the most in the space of whatever it was, 2-3 years. There was no way I could be creative, and he was tied in so tightly that you just couldn't be creative. So, I think it's changed a little bit, but it's sort of what you're saying makes sense.
Well, it's like I was saying to Prajo that writing was much easier in lockdown because I was at home.
Yeah.
And
you haven't got the logistics, have you?
Yeah, so like when you're sort of more relaxed,
yes,
then you're able to write a bit. It's kind of why one of the reasons why I find that I write better, like either really late at night or early in the morning. So like
it's quite common, So
like for instance, I finished my recent like investing book at about 5 a.m. because I just wrote from like 1 to 5.
Yeah, I couldn't do that.
Whereas like
I'd pass out and be asleep.
Yeah. So like I find that my brain, my creative juices sort of go at about between 1 o'clock in the morning to like 6, which is kind of unfortunate, but that's when I find that I'm most creative.
I must admit, I think it makes sense because I haven't done it for a couple of years now, but when I do write, it does tend to be late at night because everything's done. There's no distractions.
Yeah.
And your mind can focus.
Yeah, it's really quiet.
Whereas in the mornings, my head is, do I get out of bed? And if I do manage to get out of bed early, which I'm an early riser anyway, but if I get out of bed early, it's really I should be going to the gym.
Yeah.
Or really I should be
doing something active.
Sorting the laundry out or whatever, rather than sitting down and writing.
Yeah. I found my creativity like disappeared for quite a long time. Like a couple of years.
I remember you saying.
It only come back recently when I got like 2 or 3 days off during Easter. It's difficult because when my mind is on, it's all of this
downtime
and that sort of stuff. And then when I get back from work, I just my brain doesn't work.
Because you're spent.
Cook, eat, clean, and then by that time it's like 10 o'clock.
It's because you're spent.
Yeah.
This is the problem with working Saturdays, I think. and having Fridays off, it would be so much easier if we could. Well, they're talking about bringing in a 4-day week, aren't they?
Well, we do that anyway.
We don't. We work Saturdays. It's 4 days plus 1.
Yeah, but we'd have to work Saturdays anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me it's different. I've never really been much of a writer, so my creative stuff goes on to other things like that.
But some of the music you've created is really good.
Music, video, photography, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. And so even your photography is really good.
I've
I've always fancied that I could be like Van Gogh if I could actually draw. Like, as in,
I think that goes for anyone, doesn't it? Isn't that the case for anyone?
Like if I've got crazy things going on in my mind. I've got like the vision, but I just can't do it. So I'm just like, no, I can write it, but I can't.
Yeah, see, I've never been much of a writer. So in terms of like publishing, for me, I've written and published books, but they've been like the 3D non-verbal workbooks. Like they haven't been like
been more
novels
visual.
They've been visual stuff. So for me, I know how to put a book together, like how it's supposed to be laid out, covers, multiples of 4, double-sided, like all that sort of thing. In terms of why we chose to self-publish for here, I think the reason was between us, we had everything we needed. So between us, we could write questions.
Well, we thought we did.
Well, we do.
Well, we're almost there.
The most important thing is the advertising, marketing.
Yeah, but I'm talking about, to start with, we have, like, you're both good at writing. We can all write questions and things. I can, like, put it together and get it bound and designed. And then...
Maybe that's what we should have done.
We're quite good at proofing, so
yeah,
that's kind of why we chose to go ahead. Well, I guess that's not why we chose to self-publish. That's why we chose to start a publishing company. Yeah.
No, I mean,
but in terms of why we chose to self-publish, do you think it just goes back to the same reasons that you had? For me, I just didn't want to be just usual. I didn't want to be controlled by a bigger company.
At least like with because you've got the tuition business, the publishing sort of makes sense because
they go hand in hand. Yeah,
you've got access to.
Well, we write anyway, so
you can distribute them.
Yes.
Yeah, but then when you, and also like the thing is obviously there's like a sort of method of teaching that we've got.
Yeah, that we want to get across.
And then if you want to get that across, then having the materials that correspond to that makes sense. So that sort of makes sense. The issue is obviously like in your wider pushing things wider than that.
But to be honest, we've not really looked at it very seriously. I think if we looked at publishing it properly and very seriously, we could. I think we'd be quite successful.
We're just doing a lot.
Yeah,
I think there's so much going on.
There's a lot of because you need quite single-minded attention on something, especially with like marketing a product.
Well, we did put our books on Amazon, and it was on FBA, which is fulfilled by Amazon. So we send them a load of our books. They store them in our warehouse.
We didn't really market
and
them.
Charge us for it. But the problem was, we got a few orders. The problem was that Amazon, just like Google and everything else, needs a proper SEO plan, a marketing plan.
Yes.
What images are you going to use? What text are you going to put on the Amazon page? How are you going to get it to rank above other people's who are already well established?
Here you go, John, your next project.
That was our issue. I don't think we're going to do FBA again because they charge quite a lot for the warehouse. I would rather they bought it and we just posted it out from here.
But then I believe there's ways around it with the WooCommerce thing, and I think because I think Amazon's aiming to basically I think they're wanting to fulfill orders even like when they don't originate from Amazon. So
Yes.
I think that's a long-term
It is a
goal.
lot easier. It is a lot easier to do it, even from our end, to just send them all the books and then let them fulfill the order. But the problem is, because obviously we didn't have all of our SEO and everything in place, they get to a point where they say, right, we need to send some of them back to you, and they'll charge you for that, and they'll charge you for storage.
Yeah, that's one of the keys, is targeting keep, and also like, because obviously like algorithms rule Amazon. The way it works is, if you're a well-known author, then more people are likely to buy your book, right? So if someone buys a well-known author's book, then that pushes that well-known author further up results. Now, if you're not a well-known author, then your issue will be very few people will take the chance on reading what you've written.
Yes.
And that's the biggest issue. So
for fiction, but the stuff we do is non-fiction.
No, it's just the same for everything.
It's the same for everything,
so? Yeah, the only way to get around that is, there's two ways. You undercut prices to start with.
Yeah.
And or you pay for sponsored adverts. So when someone searches for somebody else's book that you know is well known, you are paid to go above it.
And that's why like Amazon is going to be the biggest advertising company. Like, it will overtake Google and Facebook in that regard. That's where all the money. Well, they're going to make. They may obviously make money from AWS, so the Amazon Web Service.
Yeah.
But they'll make a lot from the advertising, because it's the fastest growing ad space.
I remember they started with books, didn't they?
And it's easy in some ways. I think it's easier to use than Google's and
it's so sleek
and Facebook's, like
so sleek.
Not the shop bit, the actual advertising bit. Because obviously I took a brief look just to see what it was. Not that I will, because I just like there may be a return, but I doubt there will. Like just because like if I go just by history, people don't make a return on their books really. Like they tend to be like, they're kind of vanity projects in a sense.
I've noticed they're advertising low content, publishing low content on Kindle quite a lot at the minute.
Yeah, I've got very short, because Project was complaining about like how whenever he reads a book, he's like, by the second chapter, I get what they're talking about, and there's no point reading further. And I was desperate to avoid that for my book. So like everything is like
tailored for me.
but Project is my ideal reader. So it's like
pretty much.
He'll get like something from every page essentially. That's
the thing with me, is I feel like I have to finish it once I've started it.
I feel cheated if it's too short.
Yeah.
Unless it's something like Animal Farm or...
But would you if it's 99p? I mean...
Yeah, I would. I'd still feel cheated.
Really?
Yeah. It has to have some decent substance in it.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, that's like any book. Like,
No, but as in, it can't just be on the... It has to have a deep dive of some sort.
I've read quite a few of those like really, really short books on like... There's like how to improve like public speaking or something like that, or how to improve this, or relationships.
Well, the most famous short book is it's gone out my head. I don't know what's wrong with me.
We'll never find out what it is.
The guy that wrote How to Win Friends and Influence.
Dale Carnegie.
Carnegie.
Yeah, did he
what
do
was
like
the other one?
I think
we did a review on that.
Yeah. What was the book? What was the book called?
How to Win Friends and Influence.
No, there was another one he wrote.
Oh, he rewrote some pamphlet thing or something like that, and then it became.
Have to look it up. I'm sorry.
It's probably the Communist Manifesto or something like that.
Dale Carnegie. I don't think Dale Carnegie.
No. As in the short book that.
Dale Carnegie books. Here we go. I'm sure it was him. It's going to bug me unless I.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it's a really difficult industry. I don't know how, because I don't understand how you get to that point of even though like intellectually I understand it. I understand how you get to the point of of being a massive bestseller and stuff like that. But I think like the sheer number of things that need to go correctly and in your favor, it's pretty difficult to get right.
What do you think about finding like a niche? Because if you're writing something that somebody else has already covered and they're really well known for it, would you compete in that, or like there's obviously a lot of investment books.
Yeah,
I guess what we always say, write about what you know about.
Yeah,
so I guess there's that.
I mean, yeah, like some I'm interested in like aquascapes. So like
aquascapes,
sort of arranging like aquariums and stuff like that with in beautiful ways and that kind of thing. That's quite a niche topic. And if you were to, they've also got different forms within there and that kind of thing. So if you were to like pick a certain form and then write a book on aquascapes, then that's really, really specific. And some people will be looking for that who are interested in that thing. So that I think maybe always write to a niche.
Maybe that's too niche.
I got it completely.
It's more visual as well.
Small but focused market, dedicated.
That is a massively niche market, though.
Yeah. No, but I mean that's the thing. Some things are massively niche, but people are actually looking for that kind of stuff.
I got that book completely wrong. It's Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich.
Oh yeah. I don't think that's that short though.
Short enough.
It's not. I was
relatively.
Yeah.
You could get through it quite quickly.
Yeah, I don't really like it that much.
No, there's a lot of repetition in it.
I find it really.
They always.
I kind of hate that book because even though, I mean, you could say it gives you confidence to when you read it or something like that, or it seems inspiring, but I just think it's kind of like it's nothing special. It's a bit airy fairy. Whereas like I prefer books which actually tell you like this is this. I
tell you what, which book I thought was like that was The Secret. Everybody was raving about The Secret, and I picked it up and I thought, but this is saying nothing. I actually couldn't read it.
The title's good though, because I'm immediately thinking, what? Huh?
Yeah, exactly.
What's the secret?
Exactly. So, it's to do with law of attraction.
Yeah, but then I don't tend to like those books that much because I just find, okay, well. I kind of knew that, you know.
Yeah, it doesn't actually tell you anything.
And it's like, what does that book have over How to Win Friends and Influence People? Which is
I've never read it.
So that's
you really need to read it. Of all people,
it's like
thanks. I've got plenty of friends.
No, but it's no really influence. It's
no influence whatsoever.
It's really like that. To be honest, you don't need to read any other book on like that topic if you read that book.
Like, how to win friends?
Like, there's no point. Like,
I've got a copy of it somewhere. Somebody gave it to me. I should have taken the hint then.
I've got it on Audible, and I've done a review of it. You can just watch that.
Okay. I think I did. Didn't get much out of it. No, I genuinely haven't. I'm just winding you up.
I know, I would believe it.
So I've just typed in Goodreads. Best business books, and the first one is How to Win Friends and Influence People. The second one, which I think you should both read and I've read 3 times, is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Have I done that one? It might be on my Audible.
You've got Atomic.
Atomic Habits, yeah.
Yeah. So also that's an interesting thing. So like depends on the type of book, what medium
you
use, because like when it's a really like I've got The Intelligent Investor on Audible and I find it quite dense to listen to, but then other books I'm kind of okay like they're okay in Audible form because there's less complicated for my mind to take in.
It's difficult for an Audible book that has graphs.
Yeah, exactly. Like graphs and figures. Like if you try to listen to
listen to that?
Yeah, when they show.
Yeah, the Blue Ocean one I found quite difficult to listen to.
I think business books are better.
That one was okay.
It was okay to listen to, but I think business books are better in in physical form. Although, like on our trip to
your non-verbal book would be really boring. It's a hexagon next to a square next to a triangle with a dot next to it and you've got to be really, really specific about
that's option A. Option B is. But business books are better when they are physical. But if you think back to when we were driving to Newcastle over Easter.
Yeah.
And I played you from wherever I was in the Netflix book.
The Mark Randall one.
Yeah, you liked that, didn't you?
Yeah, no, I thought it was quite good.
It's a really interesting story.
Because the thing is...
Sorry, which book did we listen to?
You were asleep. The Netflix book.
Oh, I've only just finished that.
That will never work.
That will never work, yeah.
I'll leave a link again.
I don't... Has he got 2 books out? No, he hasn't. It's the same one. I've only just finished it yesterday or day before.
Yeah, the thing that I liked about it...
How did you forget if it was yesterday?
Yeah.
Because I didn't look at the title. It was just on my Audible and it just plays automatically when I get in the car.
Yeah. Well, that was... So business... That is technically a business book, but it's still like novelty. It's still
the thing is, it's got an emotional...
storyline, yeah.
Story, yeah. I find that it's quite difficult to...
Because it's semi-autobiographical.
Yeah.
That's why it's not a pure business book.
And I think that that works really well through the listening medium, but I find like a lot of dense investing books, like actual things with like there's graphs and stuff like that, and there's a lot of details and equations. And, like I can't possibly. I've tried to listen to like maths books before.
How do you listen to maths books?
I don't know, like I know I was, and then they describe the equations, and I'm like. You trying to get it into my head.
You definitely need to see that written down.
Yeah, I know. I realised that afterwards.
How did you not realise that before?
I know. I thought my brain can handle this. It's not too hard, but like it is quite difficult when there's a lot of stuff going on like that.
So we're saying Audible for like storyline types of books. Some business books. Most business books need to be written on, done physically, or.
I think apart from anything else with the business books, it's nice to be able to make notes.
Do you know, I really don't like dog earring or marking in my books. I like keeping them.
No, I won't have them pristine. I like them dog eared.
I really don't.
Some books aren't like... The thing is, the interesting thing is some books are like... They're about the information that you get from the book. But then some books are about the journey that you take through the book. So
this one that we were listening to, and also Shoe Dog. We
That's
listened
really
to that.
Again,
the same thing. It was the journey.
Yeah. It's the journey.
But you still get business ideas from it.
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
But like I think
there's no graphs.
Yeah. There's no graphs.
So I wanted to ask you, because I was trying to figure this out for a while ago, about how to get your book onto the Kindle store or onto Amazon.
Took me like an hour or so, 2 hours.
How was it done?
Well, the way I did it was I obviously wrote it on Google Docs. Like I just word processed it.
Yeah.
After I'd written it, then I copied it over to this thing called Kindle Create.
Kindle Create. How long has that been around for? Because I don't remember seeing that when I tried.
I think it wasn't there before because.
I mean, I tried maybe 6 to 8 years ago.
Maybe you might have tried to download as an EPUB on, I don't know, Google Docs or something like that, and like it just won't work as well.
Yeah.
Like I don't think they like that.
When I looked into it was about 8 years ago. So
so I think they've brought this in because I think that's probably a recurring problem with.
Yeah, all the Gutenberg stuff is on EPUB.
Yes, but there's
they do
some like weird format on Amazon because I think they want to control
they want to lock everything off.
Yeah.
So after you've got it, what was it called again? Kindle Create. So what is that?
So it's just a program you download onto. You can download it into Mac or Windows, and then you just.
EPUB is a program.
No, Kindle Create.
Kindle Create. Sorry.
And then you upload your document onto there. I just put it through as a doc, really, and then it converts it to.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah.
So you don't need to choose like where page starts and all that sort of thing. It just takes.
No, because like the thing is,
when you write it, you're going to write it in chapters, aren't you?
Yeah, like
will it start? Okay, so will it start new chapters on new pages automatically?
I'd already done. I think it's got some way of detecting chapters.
Where it says okay.
I did put chapters in though. Anyway, onto my
you
one.
Actually titled them and said chapter 1, chapter 2.
It all in. Yeah, I did the contents
so it will
page.
read.
Yeah.
You did a contents page as well, and it just pulls all that information out automatically.
Yes, it's relatively intelligent. Although, like then I started doing subheadings because subheadings, I think they look slightly nicer. So I put loads of subheadings into my book. So I spent some time going through the document. My biggest problem was images because a lot of my images didn't work. So I needed to redo them.
Does it tell you like this?
It just won't appear.
Right.
It just won't appear. So if you go through it, then
where did you pull your images from?
I drew them all.
Oh right, okay.
So then I had to redraw them, which was great, and I redrew all the graphs and stuff like that. And
so they appear on Kindle, graphs and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, when I needed to. Obviously, like the important thing is if you're reading on Kindle, you need enough contrast in your colours for it to show up effectively in black and white. But they do have quite a wide contrast range, Kindle. There's like 16 shades, so that's pretty good. And yeah, essentially I had to go and reformat all of them, like change the sizes, download them all as JPEGs.
Did it?
Didn't do PNGs.
Did it give you a choice of fonts or things, or is it just?
Yeah, it gives you a choice of fonts. Yeah.
Oh, on the upload side.
Yeah. So I think there's a default font, but I think people can.
You can adjust it on the other side.
People can choose what they want. It's really weird because I saw one that was designed for people with like dyslexia, and it looked really weird to me.
Well, you must be alright.
It's like a dyslexic font thing. I had no idea what it was, but like to me, it looked really hard to read. But for them, it might be easier.
So, once you've got everything onto Kindle,
sorry, can I just ask one question on that? On Kindle, is there like a minimum word count?
No, there's not a minimum word count. I mean, there's nothing. There's few limits in terms of what you can upload. I don't think there's a minimum. I mean, you probably should upload something. Like, is it?
Well, in that case, you could upload like a 20-page.
Yeah,
you can upload a 1-page worksheet with 20 questions on it for like 10p.
You can do that, but like,
interesting.
What's the the thing is as well is it's shown on the other side how many pages your document has.
Yeah, you've got to provide enough value.
Like I said, I just did. Like, to be honest, my book is not long. It's like 76 pages or something like that. It's quite short.
Oh, that's not too bad.
But it's the idea is that it's condensed. Like I didn't want to like drone on for hours about loads of different things, and I find that a lot of books do that. So
yeah. Okay, so in terms of self-publishing, should we explain how we self-publish? So did you get your ISBN?
You don't need one for a Kindle book.
Do you not?
Nope. That's one advantage.
Well, that's I didn't know that.
Yeah, because ISBNs are not cheap.
They're relatively cheap.
They're not bad.
They're relatively cheep.
I
think it's just because we bought so many.
We've just bought 10.
Yeah.
Recently, or
10.
10.
For the penniless writer, they are expensive though. I suppose like if you're like expecting a return, then they're something to consider.
So when you're publishing for like a physical copy, you need an ISBN, which is your barcode, and you register that. You need someone to design a front cover, potentially an illustrator as well, and someone to design like the inside of the book.
Yeah, that's the hard bit, I think.
You then need a printer to print and a distributor to distribute.
When you say a printer, you mean a printing company. You don't mean a printer. as in...
I mean a printer as in a person, not a machine.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean a printing company. And then you need someone to distribute, and you need to market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you've got decisions like, do I have stitching in it, or do I have...
Well, that depends on the thickness of the book. So if you
I suppose, if it's too thick...
You have a choice of hardback and paperback, and then depending on the thickness, you can have staple bound or stitch bound. Usually they're stitched.
Yes.
With yeah. So that's the list of things for how to self-publish physical books. How to self-publish ebooks seems to be a lot less.
You just need me.
Well, you need the content.
You need the content.
You'll probably still need a designer / illustrator for the front cover.
Yeah. Well, you need
you still need a marketer, distribution.
The hardest bit is the marketing, but the distributing is handled by Amazon, isn't it? So that's the distributor, but the hard bit is.
So how do you market?
You need an SEO marketer. That's really what you need. And you need to market in different ways. It's like if you're an influencer, so if you use Instagram, if you're on YouTube a lot, then you've got access to a market, and you can sell and promote your book on that platform. But if you haven't got that, then you need to build that. That's the difficult thing. So that's a bit that I'm just kind of like, I don't really want to be that well known. It's not my aim. That's never been my goal. I don't want to be a celebrity. I don't want fame. I just want to I just want to write something of value. That's it.
So I've just literally typed in book publishing, and on the first page it's come up with UK self-publishing from £175, books and Amazon Kindle ebooks.
Well, I think you can reach out to people to obviously help you with that, but you are going to have to do a lot of stuff yourself. It's not. I think it's a lot of hard work. Like I said, a lot of people they'll offer free content.
Yes.
And then they'll be like, oh, by the way, I've got this book that's in paperback or whatever.
The more you give for free, the more you get back.
Also, Kindle books can... Obviously, people will go, okay, I'll pay 99p for the Kindle book. If I really like it, then I'll invest in the physical copy. And sometimes that also pushes sales because...
But that means you have to do both.
Yeah. But it's, again, because you've written the content, it is more work, but
maybe you just do a run of 100 books or something and start from there. Build it up.
It increases your chance of success if you've got multiple formats of your book, because you've got a paperback or hardback and Kindle, you've got even an audiobook, then you've got multiple ways to reach people with the same content. So for a writer, I think it's quite attractive having multiple formats. That's something I want to do. I want to do an audio book.
You have all of the...
Yeah. So exactly.
There's a guy called Steve Parker that has done a lot of the George Orwell books, and they're free to listen to on YouTube. Yeah. And obviously he's got his own...
That's what I was thinking of doing, doing it free on YouTube.
Yeah, and I listened to his version of 1984. It was so good. So good. Well, really brought it to life.
Yeah. That's the hard thing as well, is because that's another one of the big costs. If you did go down the audiobook route, then you need someone who's effectively an actor, especially if it's a fiction book. It's especially hard because they need to do the different voices, characterization, show emotion.
We have a tutor who's an actor. You could use him.
It's true.
Okay. I think that's it for today.
Yeah.
Anything to add?
No, not at the minute. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for watching again, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.